We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome to Business Rockstars. I am joined by Ali Mirza, president of Rose Garden Consulting. Thanks for stopping by, joining us from Atlanta.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you. So for those who aren't familiar, could you explain what Rose Garden Consulting is?
We're a sales consultancy that helps companies scale their sales efforts. So we'll come in, we'll build out a sales team for you and show you a repeatable process on how you can replicate your star performer and have those results across the board.
So I'm excited to talk to you today because for our entrepreneurs watching and listening, sales, obviously huge, arguably the number one skill set that you need to have. So before we dive into how to be a great salesperson in your business, let's talk about your personal story. How did you get into this?
I got into sales kind of like I believe most people got into sales is completely on fluke. I sold cars for about 3 weeks the first year out of in university, just kind of as a summer job. Sold it for 3 weeks, absolutely hated it. And then quit. It was more of a mutual parting. They didn't want me there. I didn't want to be there anymore. But then the following year, I actually ran into a high school friend of mine who was selling insurance. And so he said, well, what are you doing for the summer? I said, nothing. I need a summer job. And so he said, well, why don't you come sell insurance? So clearly I didn't learn my lesson about sales in the first time. So I said, why not? So I started selling life insurance door to door. And so I was one of those guys, you never saw me before, you never saw or heard from me again afterwards, and we had to sell right there and then on the kitchen table.
Wow.
So that's what I did for a number of years, built up the team, did all of that. But after a while, it just got to a point where I didn't really enjoy it. There was a lot of travel into the country. Not a fan of small towns. I like the big city. So after a while, I said, okay, well, this is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. And it was a very bureaucratic process. So I said, I'm just a salesperson, let me sell. So that's when I actually started my company, Rose Garden Consulting. And we actually originally started off as outsourced salespeople. So you didn't want to, you had a company, but you didn't want to have a sales team, but you needed to sell. You would hire us. So we were just like a hired gun. And so we'd come in, sell for you. It was then about 3 years ago, we had a little bit of a pivot when a client of mine came and said, look, Ali, everything's going great, but you get hit by a bus tomorrow, we're back to square one. I said, yeah, you're probably right. And then at that point, he said, well, why don't you write down what you do for us? I said, well, why don't you pay me for it? And that's kind of, when he said yes, that's kind of when the light bulb went off and it said, well, this is infinitely more scalable. So ever since then, we've kind of fully transitioned and pivoted into helping companies build out a repeatable process so then they can scale. So you don't just have me or my team. You actually you can hire your own people and you know what to do and you can actually control it.
Yeah, and the great thing about your story and how it's come full circle is you didn't think you were a good salesperson in the beginning. You were not a natural born salesperson. In fact, you believe nobody is, right?
No, the only thing that are born are baby boys and baby girls. Salespeople are trained, and I learned that from a mentor of mine. The best way I can communicate that is no one's born with the doctor gene. Nobody's born with an engineering gene, right? So why do people seem to think that there's a sales gene? So, yes, some people are naturally more charismatic or more outgoing, but that being said, that doesn't necessarily translate to sales. There is a certain skill set of knowing what to say and when to say it, as well as how to say it. That can be taught. For some people, they pick it up easier than others, but that's here or there. But that's the way I look at it is, there's no such thing as a born salesperson.
Now, a lot of entrepreneurs are very uncomfortable with selling. They don't consider themselves salespeople, but obviously it's so crucial. So I think part of it is for entrepreneurs kind of reframing your mindset and not being the traditional car salesman, salesy type person, but really getting to know your customer or client, understanding what they need, and more sharing versus selling. Can you speak to this a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't wake up one day saying, oh, I'm a salesman, look at me go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think really anyone wants to be referred to as a salesman, even so much so that salespeople don't refer to themselves as salespeople, right? I mean, they're, in your email signatures, your business cards, people don't put salesperson anymore.
Yeah.
They're putting consultant, product this, product man. I mean,
right.
it's
account executive. Yeah.
It's a million different things, but everyone wants to shy away from the word sales. That's a completely separate conversation. But going, with that, I think that if entrepreneurs and business owners really looked at themselves more from a perspective of communicating, right? Do you have something that someone else needs, right? And instead of looking at it from a perspective of, okay, I'm going to sell it to you, let me just properly communicate to you what it is, what it does, and how will it benefit you, right? And if I can communicate that effectively to you, and if you give me a knee-jerk reaction of not wanting to listen, it's up to me to kind of urge you a little, usher you along that process a little bit. But obviously, to a certain extent, some people just don't want to buy. You're not going to close everybody. So the best way I can explain it to people by way of a story is, everyone's got that one uncle, right? Everyone's got that one uncle that, in the backyard barbecue cookout that's going to say something crazy, right? And it's up to you to not fight with that uncle, but just basically not take it so seriously and just have like a nice friendly dialogue back and forth. If you can put yourself in that mindset of that backyard barbecue, that cookout, and you can look at all of your clients as that one uncle, and you can just have a nice friendly conversation where they may say something crazy and you just say, but don't worry about it. But essentially what you're doing is you're communicating your message. If you can do that, you're going to win so many more deals, not because you tricked someone into buying, not because you were a better salesperson than they were a hard negotiator, more because you effectively communicated to them. And when they walk away, they're like, hopefully, they feel like they got something out of that transaction if they feel that they were benefited.
Well, I have so many follow-up questions, but we need to take a quick break. But when we come back, I'm going to ask them, and we're going to talk about your book that you're writing. So sit tight. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome back to Business Rockstars, where we are continuing our conversation with the president of Rose Garden Consulting. Now, before break, we were chatting about how you almost have to think about it as a backyard barbecue with the crazy uncle, right? Yeah. Because a lot of that is relationship building, right? Yeah. So is that how we should be thinking about it? Is like ultimately people buy from people, right? So that personability, that like, know, and trust is really crucial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So so if someone doesn't like you, they're not going to buy from you. So and they need to trust you, because if they think you're lying, then why would they buy from you? And so I think that but that's not where I want to end with that, because I think that everyone just kind of leaves it at that. So going a little bit deeper than that, yes, they have to like, know, and trust you. But I think that the typical cop-out answer that a lot of people have for themselves as to why they're not closing deals is, well, I'm building a relationship. And a lot of the business owners that I work with, they have salespeople that will, especially if the founder is not a salesperson or a self-proclaimed, I don't know anything about sales, I'm a tech guy, or I'm a this, whatever, they'll hire a salesperson that hasn't sold anything in 6 months and says, well, I'm building a relationship, I'm building relationships. It's all relationships. Some of the biggest BS I've ever heard right there. There's a lot of people that I walk right into, sell a six-figure contract, and I don't know them from a hole in the ground, but it's if you can properly and effectively communicate, that is building the relationship. So when people try and talk about it from a perspective that they are mutually exclusive, right? You have to first build a relationship and then you can sell. Maybe in some situations, but if every single situation that you're running into, you have to build a relationship first and then sell them, you're not doing your job as a salesperson. So I think that a lot of the relationship building happens as you're trying to sell them. And remember, when I say sell, you're communicating.
Right.
If you can communicate effectively, that is building the relationship. It needs to have a particular trajectory. If you don't have that trajectory, then you're spinning in circles doing nothing.
Let's talk about follow-up, because obviously just the first time you engage with a person, especially if it's, via email or social media, that's not going to be enough. How important is follow-up, and what is the best way to follow up?
The key to the follow-up definitely is letting your prospect, your client, know you're going to follow up. So when you and I are done talking, I'm going to tell you, hey, I'm going to reach out to you. And you can either set a specific time, which is probably preferred, unless you give me a, hey, you know what, this is just not in our budget or something, and I can't shake you. Then it's one of those that, okay, well, you know what, let me touch base with you in a few weeks or a few months or whatever. Setting that expectation, letting you know I'm going to follow up, and then asking for the confirmation, like that's all right with you, right? Leading them into that, and then so when you tell me, yeah, follow up with me in 3 weeks. When I follow up with you, I have a higher likelihood that you're going to respond, because that's what ends up happening. A lot of people just ghost you, right? You try and follow up, and then you turn into that
Yeah.
that thirsty salesperson that's just, hey,
Oh,
just want
it's
to check in,
me.
every month, and now you, once you're pegged as that, good luck. You're not gonna sell anything. So I think getting confirmation that it's okay to follow up. But then number two, don't just follow up with, hey, just wanted to check in. Every now and again, that's okay. But if that's all your follow-up consists of, you're probably not going to close a lot of deals. So make it a reason for the follow-up. A lot of times, if I've written an article or something, if I've just published a video, or it doesn't even have to be something I wrote, just something that I saw. If I'm on LinkedIn and I see someone else's article, I'll send it to one of my clients, be like, hey, read this article, thought it would be very helpful. Read, the second page, third paragraph, talks about XYZ challenges. By the way, how have you solved those? I'm re-engaging you. Right? Because
Right.
if you told me that this was your problem, and now I'm sending you some sort of a resource that's going to help you and let you know that I'm not just hitting you up to try and get some cash from you, everyone knows, look, I'm following up with you because I want money from you. Because if you try and pretend and play that game like, I just want to help you out, no one believes you, and then you know what I mean? Like you're butchering that relationship. So now they feel some sort of indebtedness to you, right?
Yeah.
Now there's that reciprocity where they want to at least reply to you and say, hey, thank you so much for sending that to me. Yeah, we haven't solved that. But now you've got that conversation going.
I like it. That's a really good technique. Real quick, you are co-writing a book. Congratulations. Tell us what it's about.
So Aaron Ross wrote the first book, Predictable Revenue. Everyone seems to love it. It's a fantastic book. And so he and I got connected up recently, and we were talking about kind of how sales has changed since he wrote that a while back. And so what he wanted to do, and he had kind of a pet project that he was trying to work on, was building a book on closing, specific to for SaaS companies. So we're actually about to co-author that together. We've got most of that written at this point, all the big ideas. But now this is where we got to get granular, and this is not where I'm good at it, and making sure all the T's and I's are crossed, and everything is spell checked. So now we're kind of in that phase, writing that out, but a lot of really good information on how to secure meetings, secure deals, and kind of move the ball down the line.
Very cool. Well, be sure to check it out. And thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.